Please go, sir.
Thank you so much, Bishop. During the morning session, the chair of the Committee on Tellers informed us that Committee on Credentials informed us that Reverend Anisito Villalon resigned as member of the Iglesia Metodista sa Pilipinas.
Not as a member.
If he resigned, then there was a time when he was a member of the Iglesia Metodista sa Pilipinas. If he was a member of such a church, ipso facto, he cannot be a clergy member of the United Methodist Church. No pastor can be a member of two churches at the same time. You cannot ride the river using two bancas. Second, if he resigned as a member of the Iglesia Metodista sa Pilipinas and desired to be reinstated as a Methodist clergy person, then he should go to the process. And the process requires that he file a statement requesting for reinstatement. And the Board of Ordained Ministry cannot grant this request without his having served as a local pastor for at least 2 years. Was this done? The action of passing his character does not have very much to do with his relationship in the annual conference. So, for these reasons, I submit my opposition to the recommendation of the Board of Tellers.
All right.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you. That was a courtesy. That was not continuation of the debate. You've heard the concerns that did not get expressed during the deliberation of the report. Is there anyone that voted in favor of endorsing the Courtesies Committee report? Want to reconsider that? I mean, the Credential Committee's report? I see none. It is received and the concern is noted. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I still have additional.
Please continue.
Yeah, thank you. We still have additional members of the delegates to be seated. From NPAC, Lay Attorney Salvador Malana, Principal Delegate. He was not counted this morning, but he was present this afternoon. And David Caipuno. From CELPAC, Principal Delegate Noel Melegrito. NCPAC, Reverend Pablo Cayaba Jr. And from QC PACE, Alexander Pumegas, Principal Delegate. And alternate delegate, Reverend Reynaldo Fabros in place of Reverend Celso Dumalig from NELPAC. That's all.
All right. These are presented, and on behalf of, you've empowered the committee to seat those. And if you would approve these persons being seated as reported, would you say yes? Opposed, no. They are so seated. Thank you. Let us turn back to the plan of organization. Article 7. Presiding officers, does anyone wish to speak to that section? Page 21. This is not new. Article 8, Section 1, also page 21, is new. Does anyone wish to speak to it? Okay. Had a chance to read it. Does anyone wish to speak? Section 2. This is not new. Anyone wish to speak to it? Section 3 is new. Will take a little bit longer for you to review it. Yes, there's a question with regard. I'm going to recognize the gentleman right here. Yes, sir, I saw your hand first. Yes.
It refers Bishop Reverend Ramos from MIDPA. Section 3, about the treasurer in the last paragraph, 620. The treasurer shall be elected by the Council on Finance and Administration, but her elections shall be subject to the confirmation by the Philippine Central Conference. My amendment to this, it should be the Council on Finance nominate to the for election to the Central Conference. So this council, CFA should only recommend for nomination treasurers so that they will be elected here so that we can be accept also others from the floor to become the treasurer.
All right. Could you make sure you put your proposed amendment in writing for the secretary? All right.
Okay, Bishop.
Yes. Please go to a microphone.
Bishop and members, Helen Camarce from PAC. Point of clarification, before our treasurer is an employee of the Philippine Central Conference, usually the CFA and a task force will interview treasurers because they are receiving salary benefits from the Philippine Central Conference. So we are overwhelmed by this new rules that the treasurer will be elected by the Council of Finance and Administration. So in addition to what has been in motion, we wanted to clarify this because this is a really big change from the previous process. Because the process, it was like an employee. There's qualifications that needs to be met, and then there is also the salary and the benefits and everything that has to be given to them. And there is also a term. So I don't know how it.
Is it your intention to speak in favor or against the amendment? that has been made?
This is against and also with the new rules.
Okay, so you're in favor of the rules as they're written and against the amendment, all right? Is there someone, we've had one speech for and one speech against. Is there someone wish to speak on the amendment? Yes, clarify, please.
Actually, it is not for. It is a clarification because I am also against this rule. So
Okay.
I wanted to say something before you allow the motion.
Thank you for correcting me. I didn't fully understand. Yes, recognize you.
Norma Dulyaga from Philippines Annual Conference. Point of clarification, Bishop, on line 584. I'm sorry, I'm sitting right there and you cannot see me immediately when I raise my hand on this section.
584.
Okay, Bishop, I just want to be
Can-
clarified on this provision.
Can I ask you that
Point
this
of,
is,
point
this
of
is-
inquiry, Bishop.
Okay, just, this is under section 2?
Article 8, Section 1, 584.
Okay.
Point of inquiry, I will not-
Would you do this for us? We're in the middle of discussion of an amendment to another item. Let us finish that and let me come back to you.
Okay, certainly, Bishop.
All righty,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone wish to speak to the amendment that's before us? Anyone? All right, I think you're ready to vote on the amendment then. The chair of the committee gets to speak.
Friends, the background of this provision is the nature of the function of the Central Conference Treasurer. The Central Conference Treasurer is a very delicate position. And somehow we would have wanted to insulate this from the dynamics of politics. And so the choice would have been vested in the Council on Finance and Administration, who, as Ms. Camarcha has said, would inquire into the qualification and fitness of the person. If we make a political issue all about this, you know, the treasurer exercises a lot of discretion in the safeguarding of the assets and funds of the national church, of the Central Conference. And therefore, we wanted him to exercise that discretion in the best interest of the church, even to the point that he becomes or she becomes unpopular to the Central Conference. So that is the whole idea. But if you want to make it a political position, then let that be. But that is the reason behind this rule.
Okay, this is before you. All right, now the chair was going to have the last speak, but we'll go ahead and let you speak. And your red card means you're speaking against the amendment, I believe. Just a moment, I'd recognize a different person. Turn on the microphone, please.
Eliseo Balicio of the North Central Philippines Annual Conference. Bishop, I'm in favor of the So this search committee is charged with the responsibility of trying to look the most qualified woman or man for the position. When there was vacancy in 2004, the same Council on Finance Administration did this particular responsibility. We opened the position to all interested bona fide UMC members. And we screened them according to the parameters which was set and approved by the Coordinating Council. The reason why this is included in the amendment, in the new amendment, is because there is too much politics already in the position of the treasurer. When financial policies are implemented and there are those people who are not happy about this, they start to hate the person in charge of the office of the treasurer. And because of this, Bishop, I am against the amendment because we would not like to put the position of the treasurer at stake, especially so when the CFA has tried their best in looking to the best person qualified for the position.
All right. Okay, the amendment is before you. Secretary, could you restate the amendment for us so everybody knows what we're voting for?
Bishop, the amendment is that the treasurer shall be nominated by the CFA and be elected by the Philippine Central Conference.
All right, thank you. You understand what's before you. If you would support the amendment, is there a question about this matter? Please go to a microphone and state your question.
Substitution to the amendment.
A substitute, you've already spoken to it earlier, didn't you? No? No, you want to do a substitute? Okay, I think she's in order. I think so. Okay, you're in order. Go ahead.
Thank you, Bishop. Since the amendment is ongoing, I would like to just add, if we could put a term for the elected treasurer, is it possible?
That is an amendment to the amendment. May I suggest it might be cleaner if you vote on the amendment and then you make a separate motion. We will still be on that item, all right? The amendment is before you. If you would approve the amendment, as was read by the secretary, would you raise your hands? Thank you. If you oppose the amendment, would you raise your hands? I think folks are not clear about what we're voting on. You were clear? You're just all right. If you are intentionally not voting, would you raise your hand if you're abstaining? Yeah? I'm trying to get a sense of whether, I think we're not clear. Let me restate what I believe we're voting, and let's try it one more time, just to satisfy that I've done my job as best I can. The amendment is to amend this section so that the treasurer would be nominated by CFA and elected by the Central Conference. That's the amendment. If you want that to happen, raise your hand now. Okay, thank you. If you do not want that to happen, raise your hand now if you want it to be as presented by the coordinating council. All right. It appears to me that the amendment passes. The amendment passes. Thank you. We still have section 2, and there was a person that wanted to make another one on that. Please go ahead and speak, though, Chair.
Let me just be very clear about this. The sponsorship speech said, so that the Central Conference can also entertain other nominations. Does that mean that the nomination by the CFA will still be the only nominee to be elected, because these are tied into two things, Bishop. The nominate and elected. So the impression is, I think, the impression of the conference is the nominee is the one to be elected only.
If the conference is making the election, the conference will determine who is the person elected. Okay, all right. Now, I recognize you wanted to come with another amendment.
I would like to make another motion, an addendum,
Okay.
that the nominated or how do you call it, elected? That the elected treasurer will have a term of 4 years.
All right. Is there a second for that motion? There is a second. Would you speak to it? Do you wish to speak to your motion? Do you wish to say anything more about your motion?
Bishop?
Just a moment. We'll come to you. Do you wish to say anything more?
Okay. I move that the elected treasurer during the Philippine Central Conference will have a term of 4 years.
Right. We got your motion. And the question is, do you want to say anything about why?
It is for the best interest of the Philippine Central Conference that we also see how the treasurer do in her or in his work. So I think the motion is for 4 years, but in case he's doing good, he is for re-election for another 4 years.
Okay, thank you.
Bishop, I would have raised a point of order because Section 1 already spells out the term.
Okay.
If only we read Section 1 carefully, it says that they are elected and shall serve during the quadrennium. So it is a quadrennial term.
It's a 4-year term. Okay. Does that satisfy you? You wish to withdraw your motion? And the seconder agrees. That motion is withdrawn. There's a question over here, the woman first. And I'll come there next.
Bishop, I'm not sure if this is a question, but it's just a point of clarification, or because you already declared that the amendment was passed. But I have a question on that, or an explanation. I think the body is not very clear, really, about what they were voting. Bishop, it is the CFA, the Council on Finance, who interviews the applicants. Okay? It is also the CFA who chooses, and then to be confirmed by the Central Conference. Now, if there is a nomination from the floor, will the floor be able to interview the nominee? Hindi po sila, they won't be able to interview the nominees. So they will be voting if there is a nominee on the floor.
Okay. Let me just interrupt to say this is not a question. It is more debate on the matter we've already voted on.
Yes, that's what I
Okay,
said in the
and I
beginning.
understand the vote determined it in a different direction. The conference has decided it will determine who the treasurer will be by whatever means the conference chooses to do that. So that's no longer a matter of debate for us, so you're no longer in order, okay?
That is why, Bishop, I told
Okay.
said in the beginning.
Well,
But
okay, so the conference would decide, and when that is under consideration, that would be the time to discuss and raise those concerns to help the body to decide, okay? I'm going to move on to another person now, all right? I had promised to come back to you. Would you go to the microphone, and then we'll see what other questions?
Bishop, this is Norma Duliaga, Philippines Annual Conference. May I just request our dear chairperson to please explain to us the implication. I'm referring to Section 1, line 584. What would be the implication of this provision to our present structure, Philippine Central Conference? And the Philippine Central Conference in session should be enlightened also as to what are the scopes and limitations of these other officers. Third, why is it called other officers? To use it as a term.
All right,
It's
that's a
quite
question for
ambiguous.
clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The antecedent, Madam, of the word other is the presiding officer. The first officer mentioned by the plan is the presiding officer. And apart from the presiding officer are the other officers. And who are these? The secretary and its associate. The word deputy should be associate. The treasurer, the lay leader, and the chancellor.
Okay. All right, does that answer your question? I think, stay at the microphone. I think there's still some unclarity.
My next question po ay, ano po yung scope and limitation ng officers na ito vis-a-vis, meron tayong COCO na nagpupulong, at what would be the implication of this? How powerful would these presiding officers and others in implementing some rules and policies? Thank you.
With respect to the coordinating council, it is clear that the secretary is also of the central conference is also the secretary of the coordinating council. That is well spelled out in section 2, and also the secretary of the board of trustees. The treasurer of the central conference is also the treasurer of the coordinating council, and functions with respect to the other agencies. The lay leader is a new position. The chancellor is an old position. The chancellor is more of a legal advisor. And the advising is not only to the episcopal officers, it is also to the central conference, to the coordinating council, to the board of trustees, and to the other agencies that may need legal advice.
Okay. I see two other questions here. I'm going to begin with the woman first and then the gentleman. Thank you.
I'm Mrs. Nena Valdez, NEPAC. Point of reconsideration. The treasurer is a sensitive position. That's why my motion is that the College of Bishops should nominate the treasurers because they know what is best for the Central Conference. It
All right,
is
let's
very
be in order.
sensitive.
Let's be in
We should
order.
not politicize this position because our properties are at stake. Please let us be discerning.
All right. That is a motion. Is there, let's be in order. Is there a second for that motion? Is there a second? I can't tell.
May I continue?
Um,
It is not only the credentials.
Excuse me a minute. Is there a second for the motion? There is a second. Now please continue.
We should consider also the moral credence that is highly considered, because this is properties.
All right.
We should not politicize.
Please write your amendment down. Ma'am, please write your amendment down for the secretary. We have a second. Does someone wish to speak to the amendment that we've just heard? That's what's before us. I see a question. There's a question here or statement.
Ramil Divera from Central Luzon Philippine Annual Conference. I have a point of clarification, Bishop. I'm a bit confused. The motion was to reconsider, but she raised at the same time the amendment. Are we going to vote for two different motions, which seems to me was brought to us? The first was the point for reconsideration, and the next one was the amendment the lady, the previous speaker, was raising to us.
Just a moment. All right. Yeah. Let me ask first the question. Is the maker of this motion, the maker of the motion, would you stand again? I got a question for you. I need to ask you to go to the microphone. My question is, did you vote in favor of the previous motion to amend this matter? Did you vote for the previous motion that the body already passed?
The first motion to be amended or
Yes.
new.
Did you vote for the motion to have the conference elect or the treasurer, or did you not?
No.
Okay, if you did not vote for the other, then you're out of order making a motion of reconsideration. So your motion is out of order and not before us, okay? All right. Now I'm going to recognize the gentleman that's in the back.
Pacifico Anyag from Bulacan, Philippines Annual Conference. Bishop, I have an observation to make, which perhaps is very material in our discussion because it concerns the whole of Article 8. I don't know if this is an oversight, but in Section 1, line 587, it says, they, meaning the identified or the enumerated officers, they are elected during the regular session and shall serve during the quadrennium. They are elected by the regular session. And then in the description of the functions of all of these officers, like the secretaries in line 607 are elected by the College of Bishops. The Central Conference Treasurer in line 620, the Central Conference Treasurer is elected by the CFA. And on line 630, the Central Conference Lay Leader is elected by the Committee on the Laity. And on 635, the Chancellor is elected by the College of Bishops. And then in Section 1, going back to Section 1, they are all elected by the regular session of the
All
General
right.
Conference.
We'll ask the chair of the committee, let's
May I
stay in
respond to
order
that?
to respond.
I know my compadre will raise that. That is why I prepared for my answer. The election process starts with the nomination and ends with the confirmation. But these are all processes during the regular session. And therefore, it becomes that the election there is confirmed, it is completed. The election is completed by the confirmatory action by the Central Conference in session.
All right, Bishop. Granted that is the meaning of, or the difference between an election and a confirmation. In the possibility, a theoretical possibility, that those officers have been elected by the different bodies and they are not confirmed by the regular session, what would happen?
Necessarily, the election is not valid.
All right. So that's the interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Without the confirmation, it is not a completed act of the Central Conference.
Okay. All right. That answers your question. All right. Let's get back here. All right. Any more on section 3? Yes, ma'am.
Bishop, I am Angie Broncano from Rizal, Philippines Annual Conference East. I'm on section 2, Bishop.
Section 3.
No, Bishop. 2. We're done with section 3.
You had a question on section 2?
Yes, Bishop, may I beg your indulgence?
Oh,
Because
go ahead. Go ahead with your question.
Page 22, section 2, article 8. With the reference to the secretary, because it was stated here that this provision on the secretary and the deputy secretaries was lifted from the section 1D of the plan of organization. When I check on the handbook, it was not so. So this was really new. So that's why I went back to this provision, because it was entirely new.
Okay.
So my amendment would be to maintain what is provided for in the handbook. The secretary and the deputy secretary shall be elected by the Philippine Central Conference in session.
All right. Is there a second? Would you put that in writing for the secretary? Any discussion on the amendment to section 2? Chair, yes, question? Comment on this amendment. We're on the amendment to section 2.
Thank you, Bishop Brown, Levi Bautista, Northern Philippines Clergy. I speak in favor of the amendment. The officers are officers given a position of trust. And we went through this morning the process of entrusting to secretaries the role of being the first point at which they are the keepers of the documents and the memory of the conference. Electing them should belong to the body to which they are accountable and their intervening process before it. And therefore, I am in favor of the nomination and the election from the floor of the Central Conference itself.
All right.
Of the secretary.
That's a speech in favor of the amendment. Any other wish to speak? Is there a speech against the amendment? I give the chair of the committee an opportunity to speak, and I think you're ready to vote on the amendment.
Well, Bishop and members of the conference, the idea here really is to expedite the processes and to make the session less politicized, lesser nominations, lesser elections, speedier proceedings. That is all the wisdom behind this. We are not robbing the session of its prerogative to make a choice. That is why they can confirm or not to confirm if they find that the nominee of the College of Bishops or any other agency that may be designated to do this, if they find that the nominee is undeserving, then they can choose not to confirm. But we are making the process less cumbersome by simplifying this. Hindi na natin i-open dito the spectacle of a political nomination. We limit that to a smaller body. And whatever is the elected person there, after a more thorough reflection, wala nang surprises dito. All that we do is either to confirm or not to confirm. Yours is that prerogative. That is not being robbed from you, Levy. That is not being robbed from you. It is still your prerogative to choose the nominee or not. But if you choose, then we have won. We have successfully expedited all these proceedings.
All right. We're voting on the amendment. If you would support the amendment, would you lift your hands? I think we need to restate it to make sure everybody knows what we're voting for. Hands down. Did the amendment make it to the Secretary?
I have not received the signed
Okay.
amendment,
Would the
but
maker of
I
the
have it on record, Bishop.
Okay. Would you read it from the record?
The Secretary shall be elected by the Central Conference in session.
All right. That's what's before us. A clarification? Please go to the mic.
I included the deputy secretaries, the secretary and the deputy secretary.
Yes. I
All
have it
right.
here.
The secretary and the deputy secretary is to be elected by the Central Conference. All right? In session. If you approve this amendment, would you raise your hand? Thank you. Hands down. If you oppose this amendment, would you raise your hands? Okay, the amendment passes. That was section 2. Section 3, we've already made amendment. There's another comment on section 2. Go ahead, I recognize you. State the nature of your privilege. We're trying to perfect these items. State the nature of your privilege. Go to the microphone.
Thank you, Bishop Levy Bautista, for giving me this moment to state a matter of privilege. The right that belongs to the Central Conference is a right that is reserved and provided for in the discipline. Whatever we do, I take exception that it is a politicized process. When the conference owns what it does, I want to take exception that is politicizing it. Because that role properly belongs to this, and there is no other description except that it's a role that properly belongs to.
All right, and statement of privilege. Anyone else wish to speak to section 3? All right, we'll go here first. Yes, sir.
Eliseo Balisi of North Central Philippines Annual Conference. It is just a reconsideration, Bishop, if be allowed, for issues which are very important, especially these amendments.
This is a motion for reconsideration?
Yes, in the voting, can we not count so that at least we can get the exact numbers of those who
Okay.
vote, especially if they are very close?
Surely.
So this is a matter of request, Bishop, if it is, it can be done. And if this be allowed, I ask for a consideration on the amendment of Section 3,
All right.
which you made a decision to refer it already. But
All right.
I'm asking for a reconsideration so that there should be an actual head count of those who will vote. Thank
All
you,
right.
Bishop.
Let me just point out a couple of things. First of all, on most of the votes that we have had today, they have not been very close, and it was easy for the chair to clearly determine the vote. And if the chair feels it's too close to call, the chair will ask for a vote. Secondly, if there is a desire for a count of vote, this should be requested at the time a vote is taken. Okay? Third, if this is a request for reconsideration of that item, I must ask first, did you vote in favor of the item as it was adopted? Did you vote for the item you are asking to be reconsidered?
Well, honestly, Bishop, I was against the amendment.
Okay, you were against, so you're not eligible to make a request for reconsideration, okay? I thought I saw a
Thank you,
person
Bishop.
over here and one back here, so we'll go here first. Yes, sir?
Bishop and members of the conference, Don Wayne Cogay from Northeast Philippines Annual Conference, a lay delegate. Before I make my motion, I would like first to be enlightened by a certain statement on Section 3, stating that he or she shall also be responsible in the management and administration of all properties and assets of the Central Conference, its board and agencies, so that their maximum use and benefit shall redound to the benefit of the Philippine Central Conference. Is it safe to assume that we are giving the absolute power to the treasurer to manage our assets?
The prerogative here is an executive function. The control, if you are talking of control, is vested with the agencies and to the Central Conference.
Well,
A corporation, an institution, a church has a manager, which is an executive officer. But if you are talking of control, that officer is under the control of a bigger body, to whom he is accountable, because a treasurer is an accountable officer. He is accountable primarily to the Council on Finance and Administration and to the Coordinating Council and the Central Conference.
well, if that being said then, I would like to move that this statement shall be removed, since as per our discipline, Section 2, Article 8, it explicitly states here that the treasurer shall keep an account, meaning you will keep a book. You will account all receipts. You will account all disbursements. And it doesn't say you will manage the assets.
Okay.
It would be a different, it's more like it's a different power. Because if we're gonna put this statement here, it's the same as giving absolute power to the treasurer.
Let
manage
me interrupt you for clarification of the body. Your question and your motion and your support for your motion have sort of gotten mixed in together, and I just want to ask you to clarify your motion, make sure we have a second for your motion, and then let you finish up your arguments in favor of it, okay? Would you clarify,
Thank you.
I believe your motion was to remove a portion of it. Would you clarify that?
To remove the statement from he shall also be responsible in the management and administration up to, so that their maximum use and benefit shall redound to the benefit of the Philippines Central Conference.
All right, to remove that sentence. Okay, there's a second. All right, now go ahead, continue to speak to your rationale.
For that, I did move for that. I gave that motion as well as what I believe management and administration of all our properties are vested to the Board of Trustees, where the treasurer is a member.
All right. Okay.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Let's see if anyone else wants to speak to it, and then anyone else wish to speak to this amendment? All right, would the chair of the committee respond, and then we'll move to a vote. Please respond.
Are you really very serious about what you are doing? Because you are taking the accountability provision here, which is that the management should redound to the benefit of the Philippine Central Conference. There must be a guiding factor, and that is that the management and administration should not benefit anyone but the Philippine Central Conference. And you want that to be removed? Are you sure you want that to be removed?
All right, that's what they will determine. All right, are you ready to vote? You ready to vote? Okay. Yes, you want to speak? Let's try to turn that switch.
I'm Melchor Abisamis, clergy from the Southwest Philippines. I'm against the provision, Section 3, because I think this will arise a problem about relationship between Board of Trustees and the function of the Treasurer. What had been mentioned in the provision is almost, especially in property, it's almost about a task or function of a Board of Trustees. Now, the implication of this, the implication of this, the Board of Trustees then, it will look that the Board of Trustees now will submit to the Treasurer. It will become, that kind of relationship is, I think, will arise, and conflict will soon to happen.
Okay. Let me be clear. You were speaking against the amendment that is before us, or in favor?
For
You're speaking for the amendment. All right.
For the amendments.
Thanks for clarifying that. I'm trying to go lay clergy person. Now the lay hand came up. Okay.
I am Ray Manglikmot of Palawan, Philippines Annual Conference, and I am against the motion to amend the provision. As I understand with the explanation of the mover, is that he wants to limit the function of the treasurer to simply be accountable, as though it appears that she will become only a bookkeeper in that sense. And I would rather see the treasurer to be accountable in managing and other aspect of the use of the properties and finances.
All right. The gentleman in the blue shirt here. Yes, sir. There's one right behind you.
Good afternoon, Bishop. Jeremiah Spaniket in the Central Luzon Philippines Annual Conference. I think I may speak also against the amendment. I agree with the statement of the previous speaker that if you are only focusing on the receipts and the disbursements into an account, you're actually reducing the treasurer into a mere bookkeeper, which is only part of an accounting function. Let us remember that a bookkeeper is an accounting person. A treasurer has more functions. Actually, if you would look even into the treasurer of the local governments that we have, they even have banking functions. Let us remember that accountability is personal in nature. Nobody else would be accountable except the accountable person. So let us not remove this thing. Anyway, if you would remove, as the chairman of the CPORO had said, when you manage, that's an executive privilege. Although there's what we call in auditing the separation of incompatible duties. The treasurer is not absolute with his or her power. There is always the independent CPA who would do. Plus, besides, the Council on Finance and Administration has an administrative function. And some of these were delegated to the treasurer. So if you remove these things, how could the treasurer function? Think, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, we have heard speeches both for and against, and ultimately, you as the body will need to decide. Are you ready to vote and trust the body to make a decision? What
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to offer a substitute motion, matter of technicality. Namely, I move to delete the whole section 3. And if I hear a second, I will speak, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, section 3, as proposed by
Let me be
the
first
CPORO.
sure that you have a second. Is there a second? Okay, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 3 offered as a new amendment directly collides against the bylaws of the Philippine Central Conference. The bylaws of the Philippine Central Conference prevails over all these matters. Article 4 of the bylaws says, Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees shall receive, collect, and hold in trust for the benefit of the Central Conference any and all donations, bequests, and devices of any kind and character, real or personal, that may be given or conveyed to the Central Conference for any of its benevolent, charitable, or religious purposes. And the board shall call the attention of this body, Mr. Chairman, and the board shall minister the same. And income derived therefrom. In other words, properties, incomes, bequests, donations that come to the treasurer shall be administered, including the incomes coming out of these properties or donations, etc., Mr. Chairman. In other words, to administer or to manage belongs squarely upon the shoulders of the Board of Trustees as stated in the bylaws of the Central Conference itself. If we want to amend custodial and administrative management on all the properties of the Central Conference, we have to go to the Securities and Exchange and amend Article 4 of the bylaws. Mr. Chairman, I submit that the whole Section 3, as proposed, be deleted. Thank you.
All right. This is an amendment by deletion to delete the entire Section 3. That is what is before you. If we can do this, if you're ready to do this quickly, we'll try. I'm going to give the chair of the committee an opportunity to speak, and you can decide whether you want to move in this direction or not. Would chair of the committee wish to speak?
Yes, Bishop. This provision as proposed, friends, and I hope we understand each other clearly here. These are concepts of governance. These are concepts of governance. The collegiate body to whom the control is vested is the Board of Trustees, no question. But as clearly pointed out by Brother Baniket, there must be an accountable officer, an executive officer, a sergeant who will see that the orders of the Board of Trustees are implemented and complied with. Now, you want to take that out? Who will see? The treasurer is the only full-time employee or officer that will see that the Board of Trustees' directions are complied with. The Board of Trustees are volunteer Board of Trustees here because this is a non-stock, non-profit corporation. All of us here come to contribute our time, but we are not full-time Board of Trustees here, unlike stock corporations where they are paid regularly. You should, you know, the nuances of corporate governance, friends, are matters that we should understand. Pinag-aralan namin ito. But if you insist, then of course, we yield to the majority rule.
All right. This is before you. Now, let me just point our situation. If this is a matter that you wish to have extensive debate about, I will call a recess so that we may go to dinner, and this whole matter of business will be carried over to tomorrow's session. That seems to be the sense of the body. Let's test the body. Let's show of hands. If you want to move immediately to a vote on this matter, raise your hands. All right. Thank you. If you want to discuss this matter further, raise your hands. The body wants to debate the matter, so this matter will be carried over to tomorrow's session. This evening. Oh, we can't do this until. Okay, you're right. We have to continue. 26. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Friends, if you will agree to take action on the recommendation 1 in the report, that would empower the legislative committees to go forward. If you're willing to take action on that, is the body show willingness? Show of hands if you're willing to consider that matter. The legislative committee's report number 1. I'll call for a vote. The body's ready to address that. Okay. Would the chair of the committee present just that part of your recommendation so that we can actually vote?
Yes, Bishop. I move, Bishop, that recommendation number 1, namely, the approval of the committees, legislative committees, and administrative committees as constituted and printed from page 134 and following.
All right. Okay. That is before you from the committee. If you would approve that motion, would you raise your hands? Legislative committees, all right? If you do not approve that motion, would you raise your hands? Well, I see a question here. Let me start with you. See another one.
Duarte from QC PACE. Bishop, I have a point of inquiry. What about those seated as an alternate delegate? They are not listed in the names that are printed out. So will they alternate to the names that they alternated to?
Okay. Yes, you have another question, but let me answer this. My advice is that automatically, if alternates have been seated in place of the delegate listed, the alternate will take their place on the committee. All right? Yes.
Eloy Delindo from Rizal, Philippines Annual Conference East. Bishop, there are some principal delegates of the annual conferences whose names were not listed in the different legislative committees. So what we're trying to ask the CPORO is that can we give the names now and be approved by the conference in session so that they can take their seats during the legislative committee meetings? Some were not included in the different legislative committee meetings, and some were displaced or their names were not misplaced.
Have these names been given to the Credentials Committee?
Yes, in the case of the Rizal Philippines Annual Conference is twice already before the Central Conference, but we found out that some of the members of our conference, the names of them were not included in the membership of the different legislative committees. And some of us, we remember the committees that we chose before the Central Conference, and we were not included in the legislative committees. I do not know if there are other annual conferences who are in the same predicament. If there are, then we have to do something about this before we will proceed with the approval of the membership to the different legislative committees.
Okay. We think that the Credentials Committee will need to be our key to resolving these difficulties, and we'd ask you to work with the Credentials Committee, and they assist us in getting persons to their proper committee. Okay? I think that any other of those? Was there another? Yes, sir. I thought I saw another one.
Thomas Jericho Aliwalas from the Philippines Annual Conference. So therefore, on that note, Bishop, I just want to clarify. So those members of the conference who wishes to change their membership or add their membership to a committee will submit it to the Credentials Committee?
No, it's not the intent for change. This is corrections. People that were inadvertently left off, or those persons or persons that were not able to be here, those are the places where the changes would be.
Okay, so how about those delegates who wishes to change their membership?
I think this is too late in the process for that. It will cause a great deal of confusion. We're going to committees now, so that it doesn't allow time for that change to be made.
So we are not allowed to change, but we are allowed to add.
If persons were left off, those corrections can be made.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and the question here, and I think I see one more.